Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for joining our stream. I'm Will DuPree here in Austin, coming to you from the KXAN live studio. Our focus continues to be right now on the COVID-19 pandemic because it is making a big resurgence here in Texas. Just in the past 2 days, Texas has reported more than 10,000 new cases of COVID-19 each day, and those cases are climbing not just across the state, but especially in El Paso. Take a look at these particular numbers. Today, the city of El Paso reported 29,743 active cases of COVID-19. More than 1,100 people are currently hospitalized there, while 287 patients are in intensive care and 204 require ventilators to help them breathe. Now, just for comparison, here in Austin, we have almost 1,500 active cases of COVID-19. 52 people are currently admitted to ICUs, 156 currently hospitalized, and 20 patients need a machine to breathe. Now, joining us right now to talk about the situation in El Paso is Julian Resendiz. Julian is a correspondent with BorderReport. Julian, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your reporting yet again.
My pleasure.
First up, let's talk about these numbers that the city is reporting. So 29 new deaths today alone, as well as 976 new cases of COVID-19. How are people reacting to those pretty startling numbers there?
I think a lot of people are scared, and I think it's finally sinking in that this is claiming our lives of loved ones, of neighbors, of friends. And the numbers that you're seeing today and in the past couple of days are the result of a spike going back to the past couple of weeks in cases. People that were diagnosed and were hospitalized, they're finally succumbing to the disease a couple of weeks later.
We also want to mention that the El Paso County judge has extended a stay-at-home order at least until December 1st. What I understand also is that there is some sort of legal challenge to that. What's your reporting now that that order may stand and remain in place for the community?
Well, it's been a very controversial order. On the one hand, a lot of people agree that the government, the local authorities need to do something to bring the numbers down. On the other hand, the business community, the small business community in particular, is saying, look, we're going broke. This is too extreme. Maybe it shouldn't have been so all-encompassing and so drastic.
The previous legal challenges to the initial order that he signed, he was able to withstand those, and the order remained in effect. Was that right?
That's correct. The initial assault on this order was not successful, but the challenges continue in court.
And how are people reacting? You mentioned there that a lot of businesses are pushing back against it, but are people in the community listening to it, abiding by it?
I think that finally people here in El Paso are realizing how serious this is. I spoke to someone this morning who described a scene in a neighborhood in East El Paso, in one of the neighborhoods most affected by COVID, with the highest number of cases and fatalities. And they describe listening, hearing ambulance sirens going off in the middle of the night, and that being a very scary scene.
We're also reporting this week, Julian, that Governor Greg Abbott has announced more resources are going to your community there in El Paso. What's your understanding about how that will help the community? What are the things that El Paso is going to receive?
I think any help is being welcome right now here in El Paso. The governor said that he was going to be sending personal protective equipment, which has started to arrive. Also, a lot of medical personnel from other places is coming to help out the embattled hospitals, as well as the mobile field hospital that has been set up at the El Paso Convention Center. So the help is being welcomed.
Additional space is also needed to store cadavers. That's a pretty grim thing to talk about for sure, but more mobile morgues are being set up in the community. What's the latest with that situation?
Well, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so we had seen reporting that additional morgue space was being sent and established there in the community in El Paso to be able to store additional cadavers. What's the situation there with that?
Yeah, that goes back to the city not being caught by surprise by the magnitude of the pandemic. Not only did we not have sufficient personnel or medical care facilities, but also not enough morgues to store the number of cadavers that we have been seeing. It's part of the same pattern. We were totally unaware that this was coming, and the community is now struggling to catch up.
Going back to talk about that stay-at-home order, what are the restrictions in place for the community given that order that the county judge signed?
I think that's very significant, and that's probably the primary way that El Pasoans are feeling the extent of the crisis. We're under a nightly curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Also, a lot of non-essential businesses have been ordered to close. That includes anything from barbershops to tattoo parlors and restaurants. You can no longer go into a restaurant and sit down to dine in. You can only order takeout or you can have deliveries made. So the closures have been substantial. They've impacted the community. When you drive around the city in the course of your reporting, you see a lot less movement of people and vehicles than you were seeing just last week, for instance. So it has had a substantial effect so far
Yeah.
on people's movement and hopefully people's attitude as well.
We also have to mention the situation in Juarez. It also has a nightly curfew and a lockdown in place, and there are some really staggering, devastating numbers being shared from there. I was reading some reporting that you did yesterday. Tell us about the situation there with COVID and the situation with more cases and even deaths in that community.
Yeah, we have a lot of interaction here in El Paso, Texas, with what is Mexico. A lot of the population has family on one side or the other, and there's a lot of people movement. And COVID has struck what is particularly hard. Since last Friday, they have recorded around 220 fatalities, and that probably speaks to them their health care facilities also being overrun. I know that there are short staff in the hospitals and the emergency rooms, and that probably is having an effect on the mortality rate down there, which is just uh, very, very different from El Paso. Here in El Paso, we have a situation that most of the people who are dying from COVID have underlying medical conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, and morbid obesity, which leads to other health ailments. Um, in Juarez, the fatality rate is much higher. A lot of people even without the comorbidities are dying. And the mortality rate of those on ventilators, particular, those who are really sick from COVID, is up in the 70% range. Probably has to do with the physical facilities being different here in Texas and over there in Mexico.
And according to your reporting, they're also going to be setting up a temporary morgue space in Juarez to deal with the number of deaths.
Yeah, the Mexican federal government sent a refrigerated trailer, which has been parked in the back of one of the government hospitals. They are being really overrun, more so than El Paso, because of the difference in the lack of resources.
Well, Julian Resendiz, he's a correspondent with Border Report. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking time to talk about the situation out there. It's pretty dire, so we want to keep sharing details about this. Julian, good luck with your reporting and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody, thanks again for joining us for our stream. We will keep, as I said, reporting about the situation, not just only in El Paso, but across Texas as COVID-19 sees a resurgence here in our state. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Will DuPree here in the KXAN live studio. Please, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.